Hi, my name is Jeff Mize. I am a registered respiratory therapist, certified hyperbaric technologist, and trained hyperbaric safety director. I'm also the chief clinical officer for WoundReference, as well as a principal partner of Midwest Hyperbaric. The Go No Go tool can be found in the menu bar under Tools and scrolling down to Go No Go tool and clicking on the lettering. You'll be taken to the repository page of previously evaluated items utilizing the Go No Go tool. To search for a particular item, you can use the search window, and it will search through those publicly displayed items that have been previously evaluated. If your preference is to evaluate a new product, you'll simply go to the plus item risk assessment. So under add item, you'll find the text field and you'll put the item that you're looking for. And for this example and for demonstration purposes, we're going to use zero form. Next, the next question, or the first question is, are you using it in a monoplace chamber and a multiplace chamber? And again, for demonstration, we're going to say monoplace. The next question will be asked is to attach and find the safety data sheet for the particular product we're looking at. Again, in this example, we're looking for zero form. Searching for zero form, what we were able to find is a safety data sheet that had product information. However, it didn't have all of the necessary information required to fully evaluate its safety within a hyperbaric environment. What you will find oftentimes that is the case is that all of the information needed is not published or available. In this case, what we did is we looked at the ingredients or the components of zero form, and the component we were most concerned with was petroleum jelly. And we are able to find a safety data sheet on petroleum jelly that gives us the information we need to answer the remaining questions in the risk assessment. You can upload or attach the safety data sheet for petroleum jelly by downloading the SDS to your desktop, clicking the choose file icon, and then uploading it here. And then that safety data sheet will be attached to this risk assessment. Next, we're asked, is there a more suitable alternative? Can the wound dressing orders be changed to a more desirable substitute that will not impact patient outcome? For demonstration purposes only, in this case, we're going to say no. We're going to use the example that the patient has a dressing that the physician does not want removed, and so we cannot remove the dressing, so we can't remove the zero form. The next question, can the item be removed before the hyperbaric treatment, left off during treatment, and replaced after treatment? Well, again, in this example, we've said no, that we can't disturb the dressing, and so we're going to answer no. If you were to answer yes to any of these, you would want to document what that alternative is, and if you were going to proceed, remove the dressing prior to treatment and replace it afterwards, you would simply type in the comments field and give those instructions. So next we'll move to each of the different categories that the NFPA 99, Chapter 14, asks us to assess in determining our risk assessment. Does this particular product produce heat? To get a more detailed definition, click the icon and that definition will drop down. In this case, we know that petroleum jelly, or zero form, specifically petroleum jelly, does not produce heat. We were able to get that information from the safety data sheet. Next, we'll go to, does it produce static? Again, for a more detailed definition, click on the icon and the definition will drop down. Again, from the safety data sheet of petroleum jelly, we were able to determine that it does not produce static. So we will click on the no button. Does this particular product have a low flash point? The zero form safety data sheet didn't give us that information, but the petroleum jelly safety data sheet did give us that information. And in fact, it states that petroleum jelly's flash point is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not considered a low flash point. So again, we will answer no. However, in the comment section, you would want to note that the safety data sheet for Zeroform does not provide all of the necessary information in your risk assessment. However, looking at the components, it was determined that petroleum jelly was the component of concern, and that the petroleum jelly safety data sheet, in fact, does tell us that the flash point is 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's why we were able to answer no. It's very important as you go through the risk assessment to take the opportunity to document any thought processes or questions or answers that you have, because the comment section is very important when you are proving that, yes, this is a safe product to go into a chamber, or no, this is not a safe product to go into the chamber. Does this particular product create a situation where we have too much fuel? Well, this is, again, is a dressing we cannot remove, and so yes, we would answer this yes, as it does create or put more fuel into the hyperbaric environment. We need to look at probability, we need to look at exposure, and we need to look at consequence of having this particular product in the chamber. For the definition of probability, hover over the icon and it'll give you a definition. Same with exposure, and the same with consequence. So let's look at probability. Is it unlikely, unusual, possible, expected, or definite that this is going to produce a situation where there's too much fuel in the chamber? Well, it's unlikely. Typically, Zeroform dressings are covering a small portion of the body. However, in many cases, it may be possible or may be expected, but in this situation, it's unlikely. What's the frequency? So when we look at exposure, rare, less than once a year, once a month, occasional, once a week. Well, if it's Zeroform and it's the dressing that has to stay in place, we can't remove the dressing. We know that it's going to be at least once a day, as we're treating this patient at least once a day, possibly twice a day. What's the consequence of having this particular product in the chamber? Is it noticeable, requiring first aid, significant, causing minor damage, serious, causing disruption of operation, severe, where you have to close the facility, catastrophic, causing fatality or destruction of equipment or property? In this situation, we would say that it is serious, possibly resulting in disruption of operation. So in the comments section, what I've included is no mitigation can be taken as the physician order requires that the dressing remain intact. Again, simply documenting our reasons why we're putting that particular item into the chamber. Next, we'll look at adverse effects. Are there any adverse effects? So this can either be drug interaction with hyperbaric oxygen that are undesirable. For instance, it has been reported that antibacterial agents such as sulfamylon in combination with hyperbarics has a poor clinical result than either one by itself. So again, does Zeroform have an adverse effect in the hyperbaric environment? We know that answer based on experience is no. Mechanical risk, is there any mechanical risk that can result from utilizing Zeroform in the chamber? And again, read through the definition as you're evaluating a product to help you determine yes or no. And in this situation, it would be no. After we've completed all of the questions, we've gone through all of the different risk assessment components, we would want to submit. If your preference is to keep this within your own center only and not make this information public to those other teams that utilize WoundReference, you would unclick the public button. And so now this will only be seen by those members of your team at your specific center. And so you would click submit. After we've submitted this, now we actually have a score. We have something now that we can take as a safety director back to our medical director and have a collaborative discussion about the safety of a particular product going into the chamber. Again, it tells us it's a single chamber. There's no more suitable alternatives. It does not produce heat. It does not produce static. There is not a low flash point. It could potentially produce too much fuel. And if we look, what we now have is we actually have a risk assessment score. So this risk assessment score, we would take the 12 and look at the table below. 12 would be between 5 and 20, and that would be a risk level of 2, telling us that there is a medium level of risk and attention is needed, but operation may continue. And so based on the Burman Risk Assessment Guide, you actually could put that product into the chamber safely. Does this produce heat? No, and no mechanical issues as well. Again, now we have actually numbers that we can look at when we're assessing the risk related to a specific product or device before it goes into the chamber. You have two options. If you felt like there was information that you didn't include, for example, if you wanted to go into greater detail under does it produce fuel, or as probably would be the case with me, if you have a typo, you can go back and you can correct that by simply clicking on the edit button, and it will allow you to go in and edit information. You can print this, which is recommended. We recommend that you print it, share it with your medical director, keep a copy for your files. As you assess different items, you can keep a list. Again, that would be your go, no-go list that you have, which should always be a living, breathing document and constantly changing. And then there's the authorization form. The authorization form is one of the requirements of the NFPA that actually tells you the different pieces that should be signed off on, the different information or the specific information that medical director and the safety lead or the safety director need to complete prior to putting that product in the chamber.